What did she say?
As I arrived on the Thursday, she had said that he had turned into a zombie the day before I got there. And she was pointing out behaviors of his. Like, look how he's doing this, that's unusual.
What's up, guys? It's me. Welcome back for another Twisted Tea video. I've really been enjoying researching all these cases and putting these videos together for you all. And boy, do I have a good one today. When I first decided to go down the rabbit hole with this one, I was so intrigued. It seemed like it had everything that I looked for. A possible serial murderer, missing people, cults, mental illness, familicide, conspiracies. A resident hitman who becomes the target of a hit himself. And the list seriously could just go on and on and on and on. Oh yeah, and there's doomsday prepping, so there's that. First and foremost, I've gotten several new subscribers since my last upload, and I wanted to say welcome and thank you to all of you who have been coming over to hang out with me because of Dan's recommendations. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing and ringing the notification bell to RSVP for my next Twisted Tea party. It's going to be a bumpy ride, so pause the video, grab yourself a snack, and buckle up. There are lots of different names and lots of different dates, so I'll do my best to stay on track and help you all stay on track as well. This story starts with and surrounds Lori Vallow.
She would like to be referred to as Mrs. Daybell.
Excuse me, Mrs. Daybell, and the complete lunacy that is her life. Lori was, well, a nobody, until her 17-year-old daughter Tylee Ryan and her 7-year-old son JJ Vallow came up missing. An intense investigation to find them turned up lots of other bizarre and twisted turns along the way. Lori has been married a whopping total of 5 times, as of now anyway. Lori was first married in 1992, and I couldn't find very much about that first husband, but that's okay because he won't come back up in this story anyway. The marriage resulted in no kids and only divorce. In October of 1995, Lori married her second husband. During this marriage, Lori gave birth to her first son, Colby. This husband won't come up again either. As far as I can find, he's a deadbeat and has never really been involved in Colby's life. Fortunately for him, he made it out alive before he fell victim to whatever bullshit is going on with his family. So in February of 1998, Lori and this dude, her second husband, also got divorced. Then in 2001, Lori married her third husband, whose name was Joseph Ryan. During this marriage, Lori gave birth to her daughter Tylee Ryan, and Joseph also legally adopted her first son, Colby Ryan. In 2004, Joseph Ryan fell sick of Lori's shit, and after just 4 short years, the couple got divorced. Just a few months later, in 2006, Lori would marry her fourth husband, whose name was Leland Anthony Vallow, or Charles Vallow as we all know him as. Charles Vallow actually seems like he is genuinely a really good dude. Together, the couple adopted Charles Vallow's sister's grandson, JJ, and decided to raise him as their own. JJ reportedly had some issues and was on medication for ADHD and was also somewhere on the autism spectrum. Charles Vallow converted to the LDS Church, or the Church of Latter-day Saints, to be closer to Lori and to be a part of her church community in an effort to connect with her outside of their home in marriage. Charles Vallow also had 2 sons from a previous marriage that were living with his ex-wife. Things seemed to finally be going well for the family. They finally had a stable man in their lives who was completely dedicated to Lori and the children. It seemed from the outside looking in that Lori had finally found her Prince Charming and the man who could possibly make her settle down. But y'all know how that goes. Now, switching gears just a little bit away from Lori's plethora of ex-husbands, there was another man in her life that she was extremely close to. Lori and her brother Alex Cox were, like I said, weirdly close, and it seems like Alex may have been her resident hitman. I'll explain what I mean by that as we go throughout the video. During the summer of 2007, Alex said that he was going to Texas to handle family affairs. While there, he assaulted Joseph Ryan, Lori's third husband and Tylee and Colby's dad, in a parking lot in Austin and allegedly tried to kill him, but Ryan managed to escape. 1 year later, Alex Cox pled guilty to assaulting and tasing Joseph Ryan and served 90 days in jail for aggravated assault. Allegedly, while Alex Cox was incarcerated, he had friends take pictures of Joseph Ryan and send them to Cox in prison, along with Joseph Ryan's address. He reportedly told these friends that he was going to give the pictures and address to a few other men that he was incarcerated with that would like to hang out with him. Now, back to Lori's Boo of the Week. In 2014, Charles Vallow and Lori moved to Hawaii with the 2 children, Tylee and JJ. They ran some sort of juice bar while they were there, and they were really living it up. A woman that Lori had become close friends with while they were living in Hawaii said that Lori had some sort of near-death experience. And she began to read books and become completely obsessed with other people who had also seen the light at the end of the tunnel. Through her obsession and all the books that she was reading, she came across a man named Chad Daybell and has many books on the subject. Chad Daybell is a writer and wrote several books, including the series Standing in Holy Places, which consisted of 5 books and described in great detail how to remain faithful and devoted to Christ during the end of times. Lori, like I said, became completely obsessed with this series, and it quickly became all that she would read, talk, or think about. She even bought the books for the friend in Hawaii and insisted that she read them too. She said that they would absolutely change her life. Lori also began to regularly appear on a podcast called Preparing a People, where she would talk about her near-death experience and preparing for the end of the world and Jesus' second coming. Yada, yada, yada. Chad Daybell, the author I was talking about a minute ago, would eventually make several appearances on the podcast as well. Chad Daybell and his soon-to-be-dead wife, Tammy, founded the Spring Creek Book Company, and that's where Chad would publish all of his books. Chad and Tammy Daybell had 5 kids together and a seemingly normal, happy life and marriage. They had settled in Springfield, Utah, and had been married for 29 years. Can I just say this now and get it out of the way? Lori Vallow-Daybell must really have a magic cookie or something. I mean, set aside the fact that she was married 5 times as of today. She'll set her sights on a man who lives states away, and she had never met him. She convinced him to not only come meet with her and be on that podcast, but to get rid of his wife and run away with her and marry her. But we'll come back to all of that. Anywho, Chad Daybell had been excommunicated from the LDS Church for claiming to be a prophet. Daybell had claimed to have spoken to people who were dead and said that he communicated with a higher power. He also had several near-death experiences where he had visions. He pretty much claims to be the chosen one. In June of 2015, Chad and Tammy Daybell moved to Idaho after Chad claimed to have heard voices that told him to move there. Tammy became a librarian and Chad continued his bullshit. Sometime in 2016, Lori and Charles Vallow moved with their children, Tylee and JJ, to Chandler, Arizona. On April 3rd, 2018, Lori's 3rd ex-husband, Joseph Ryan, was found dead and alone in his apartment of what seemed to be a routine heart attack. He was only 59, and he had been laying there for about a week when he was found. On December 5th, 2018, Chad and Lori debuted on their first episode of the Preparing a People podcast, and they did end up doing several episodes together. The podcast has since taken down all the episodes that had either Chad or Lori on them, but from the clips that I could find, it seems like they really just talked about the end of the world, Jesus' second coming, and how to remain faithful through all that chaos. On February 8th, 2019, Charles Vallow filed for divorce from Lori. He claimed that Lori had threatened to kill him and that she had also stolen $35,000 from his business account, leaving him unable to pay all of his employees on his payroll. He claimed that Lori was going crazy and claiming to be a reincarnation of God. She said, and I quote, that she was a translated being who cannot taste death, sent by God to lead the 144,000 into the millennium. Charles had contacted several mental hospitals trying to seek help for Lori. She kept agreeing to go, but she never followed through. After Charles Vallow filed for divorce in February, Lori vanished for 58 days, leaving her husband and children behind. Charles Vallow filed a missing persons report, but as far as we know, she had 0 contact with anybody. Nobody seemed to know where she was. But I have a little hunch that Chad Daybell knew where she was. He was finally getting a taste of that magical cookie. Speaking of Chad Daybell, sometime in February, a friend of Chad and Tammy Daybell says that she spoke to Chad and he told her that they were having financial issues. He said that they were tight on money and that they had been struggling pretty badly. Chad also told this friend that he really felt like Tammy was going to die sometime between October and December. He had a hunch that it was going to be a car accident, which is pretty freaking specific. When Lori returned from her 58-day hiatus, she worked her magic cookie again, and Charles Vallow decided to call off the divorce and try to work things out. In June of 2019, Melanie, who is Lori's niece, was married to a man named Brandon. Melanie had filed for divorce, and Brandon claimed that it was because she had joined a cult with her Aunt Lori. Brandon said that the petition for divorce really caught him off guard because he genuinely thought that they were in a good place in their marriage. Now, definitely make a mental note about Melanie and Brandon because we'll be coming back to them in a few minutes. While Charles and Lori were separated and trying to work through their issues, Charles had been paying for a house for Lori and the children to live in, while also paying for a house on the other side of town for himself to live in, all while trying to bounce back from that huge hunk of change that Lori had stolen from his business account. At this point, Lori hadn't worked or earned money for years. On July 3rd, 2019, Charles showed up at the house that Lori and the children were living in to pick up his son JJ. When he got there, he noticed that Lori's brother Alex was there, which didn't seem too unusual. Like I said, they were weirdly close. Charles Vallow approached the house not having any idea what he was about to get himself into. Charles and Lori had reportedly gotten into some sort of verbal altercation about custody issues when Tylee came out of the bedroom with a metal baseball bat. According to Alex Cox, Charles took the bat from Tylee and hit Alex in the back of the head with it. As a result, Alex shot and killed Charles Vallow in front of his wife and children. For whatever reason, Lori thought that it would be a good idea to pack the kids up and hightail out of there, while Alex called the police and claimed self-defense. When the police realized that Lori and the children actually were there, they summoned her to come back to the property to give them her statement. But when Lori came back, only Tylee was with her, no JJ in sight. In the body cam footage, Lori seems to be completely unbothered. In fact, the family threw a pool party the same night that Charles Vallow died. It seemed like they were celebrating. Alex Cox would never be charged for the death of Charles Vallow. The next day, Lori decided that it would be a great idea to text Charles's older two boys about what had happened to their dad. She texted them, quote, "Hi boys, I have some very sad news for you. Your dad passed away yesterday. I'm working on making arrangements and will keep you updated. I'm still not sure how to handle things. I just wanted to let you know that I love you and that your dad did too. Heart emoji." End quote. That's so messed up. Who texts somebody that their close family member died? Naturally, the boys and several other family members had all kinds of questions. I mean, Charles was young and healthy, and she was completely vague and wouldn't give them any answers. Charles's sister, Kay, who's JJ's grandmother, said that Charles had removed Lori from his $1 million life insurance policy just months before he died and made Kay the primary beneficiary. We know now that Lori tried to call the insurance company just 4 days after Charles Vallow died, asking how she could stake a claim and get that money. And that's when she was told that she was no longer the beneficiary, that she wouldn't be seeing a dime of that money, and that in fact the money was going to Kay. When Lori found out, she was irate. She had no idea. She texted a picture of the beneficiary form to Kay, saying 5 kids and no money, and his sister gets everything. It seems to me like Charles Vallow had been preparing himself for this. He knew that she was capable of this, and he knew that he was becoming closer and closer to the top of her hit list that seemed to be getting longer and longer the more she slipped away from reality. On August 10th, 2019, JJ's grandmother, Kay, talked to JJ on FaceTime for about 35 seconds. Unbeknownst to her, this would be the last time that she would hear from JJ Vallow. In early September 2019, Lori, Tylee, and JJ randomly picked up and moved to Idaho. Idaho sounds familiar. Who else lived in Idaho? That's right, Chad freaking Daybell. Apparently, Lori's niece Melanie and Alex Cox had moved there too. Now, they didn't all move together, but they did all move into the same apartment complex. A neighbor says that she saw Tylee around the complex in the first couple of weeks that the family moved there. And another neighbor says that her grandson played with JJ a few times, so we know that the children were alive and well when they first made that move. On September 8th, 2019, phone records show that Lori, Alex, Tylee, and JJ took a trip to Yellowstone National Park. They have photos of the family at Yellowstone that are time-stamped with the location. This would be the last known sighting of Tylee Ryan. We also know now that JJ's medication had never been filled in Idaho. In fact, it hadn't been filled since January in Arizona, 9 months prior. On September 23rd, 2019, JJ attended school for the last time. The next day, Lori would call and unenroll him, telling them that she had randomly decided that she wanted to homeschool. Now, I can't find any record of Tylee Ryan being enrolled at any school at this time. Lori claimed that she had graduated early and that she was enrolled in some college, but I can't find any record of that either. On October 1st, 2019, Lori signed a contract with a storage unit. Lori and Chad Daybell visited the unit a total of 9 times in October and once in November. They are seen taking in toys, bikes, and anything that the kids had owned, and also a couple of very heavy containers, as well as a tire, which is super important. Another man that I think looks like Alex Cox is also seen making a couple of trips in and out of the storage unit. On October 2nd, so just the next day, a drive-by shooting occurs against a man named Brandon. Brandon says that while he was getting out of his car, he felt something zoom past his head and then his windshield shattered. The shooter then fled. When Brandon called the police, he told them that he definitely recognized the Jeep that the shot had been fired from. He recognized it as belonging to Charles Vallow, 3 months dead at this point. We know now that Tylee had also driven that Jeep regularly, but she was also missing at this time. The model Jeep that Charles Vallow owned had a small hole in the trunk when the tire was removed, just large enough to shoot a gun through. The following day, so the 3rd, the day after the drive-by, Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow are seen going back into that storage unit to recover the tire. Coincidence? I think not. When Brandon gave his statement to the police, he told them that he thought that he was the next intended victim of this weird cult. Brandon then took his 2 kids and went into hiding. On October 9th, 2019, Tammy Daybell called 911, claiming that as she was getting out of her car, a masked man shot at her as well. She said while she was getting out of her car, a man with a ski mask on shot at her several times. She yelled for her husband Chad, and the masked man took off. Little did she know that she would actually die just 10 short days later. Probably by the hands of that same man that she was screaming for to come save her. On October 10th, 2019, Tylee's Venmo account shows a transfer to her brother Colby with a message saying, "We love you." On October 16th, Tylee's Venmo account again sent money to Colby, this time with just a heart emoji as the message. On October 19th, 2019, Tammy Daybell mysteriously dies in her sleep. It was claimed by the coroner to have been natural causes. She was only 49. She was reportedly in good health and exercised regularly and drank lots of water. Chad Daybell claimed that she had a bad cough the night before and that she just never woke up. He said it was her time. There was no autopsy done because the family hastily declined. Tammy Daybell was just another victim to this cult, or whatever the hell is going on here. Also in November of 2019, Chad Daybell was awarded a $430,000 life insurance policy from his wife Tammy. On November 26, 2019, police went to Lori and Chad's house in Idaho to check on JJ at the request of his grandparents. They hadn't heard from him since that short little FaceTime in September. Up until this point, they had no address for Lori and the kids, so they didn't know where to even send police to check on him. They had no idea where they were, not even which state they were in. Upon arrival, police were greeted by Chad Daybell and Alex Cox. Chad acted as if he didn't know Lori very well and told police that he didn't even have her phone number. Mind you, they were married by this point. Alex told the officers that JJ had been staying with his grandparents, which the officers immediately saw as a red flag. I mean, the grandparents were the ones who sent them there. Police reached out to Lori to try to get to the bottom of it and find out where JJ really was. Lori claimed that JJ was visiting with friends in Gilbert, Arizona. But just a couple of days later, their friend would contact police and tell them that Chad and Lori had asked her to lie. She said that she hadn't seen JJ in months, and as soon as they asked her to lie about where he was, she knew that she needed to alert police. So then on November 27, 2019, police returned to the Daybell property with a search warrant and found that the house was completely empty. Chad and Lori had fled back to Hawaii. On November 29, 2019, Alex got married to a woman named Zulema in Las Vegas. He decided to take his new wife's last name, I'm assuming to dissociate himself from the negative attention that was starting to build up around the cult. Zulema apparently taught relationship, marriage, and parenting classes. Lori's friend said later that Lori really liked Zulema and said that she was part of the weird doomsday journey that they all seemed to be on. Zulema also claimed to have some sort of special powers. A couple days later, Lori's niece Melanie also got married in Las Vegas. So while Chad and Lori were in Hawaii, The children had never been sighted there by anyone on the flight or at the resort. Police were also avidly watching the couple's apartment, and they had never seen any sign of Tylee or JJ either. On December 11, 2019, law enforcement exhumed Tammy Daybell's body to look for evidence of any suspicious circumstances after they realized that people were dropping like flies that had been involved with either Chad or Lori Daybell. The sheriff's office released a statement saying that it could take up to a year to get the autopsy results back. As far as I could find, as of just a few minutes ago, I looked again before I sat down to record, the results of that autopsy, if they're back yet, they have not been made public at this point. The day after Tammy Daybell's body was exhumed, so December 12, 2019, Alex Cox was found unresponsive in the bathroom of he and Zulema's apartment. Apparently, Zulema's teenage son had found him laying on the floor. When he called 911, he didn't even know Alex's last name, and he called her, my mom's boyfriend. Alex Cox, dead, a week and a half after he got married to somebody we know was part of Lori's cult. On December 20th, 2019, Tylee and JJ were officially considered to be missing, and police finally asked the public for assistance in helping to find them. On January 3rd, 2020, the FBI and law enforcement went to Chad Daybell's residence with another search warrant. They reportedly took 43 items, including cell phones, computers, journals, and documents found within the home. On January 5th, 2020, Colby, Lori's first son, uploaded a YouTube video pleading with his mother to make it all end, telling her that only she had the power and that it was all in her hands. On January 7th, JJ's grandparents held a press conference to announce a $20,000 reward for the children's safe return. Then on January 25th, 2020, Lori and Chad were located in Hawaii, and a warrant was issued for Lori to physically produce Tylee and JJ to the Madison County, Idaho Department of Welfare to prove that they were alive and well. All she had to do was take a picture with a newspaper with that day's date visible and the kids in the same picture, and she didn't do that. They gave her a deadline of January 30th. The following day, January 26th, Chad and Lori were pulled over in Hawaii, and their rental car was seized. In it, they found both Tylee and JJ's birth certificates, Tylee's bank debit card, JJ's iPad, and both of their school registrations from Idaho. At the time, Tylee's bank card was still active, but hadn't been used since September. They also searched the couple's apartment, and no items were found belonging to either child or evidence that a kid or teenager had ever been there. Lori's January 30th deadline came and went, with no evidence that the children were alive or well. In February, an Idaho news station gained access to Lori's storage unit because the bill hadn't been paid for months. Inside, they found all of the kids' belongings and photos. Then on February 20th, Lori was arrested for 2 felony counts of desertion and non-support of dependent children, resisting or obstructing officers, solicitation to commit a crime, and contempt of court. At that time, she was being held on a $5 million bond. While Chad Daybell was not arrested at this point, Lori boarded a plane to be extradited back to Idaho, and Chad boarded a plane to go back to the mainland as well. Then sadly, on June 9th, 2020, the remains of Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow were found on Chad Daybell's property. Police had gotten the GPS records from Alex Cox's cell phone on the day that the family went to Yellowstone National Park, which, like I said, was also the last known sighting of Tylee Ryan. Alex had left Yellowstone and went to Chad Daybell's property. His cell phone pinged on the land near Daybell's pet cemetery and fire pit for 7 hours that fateful day. On the day JJ went missing, Cox's cell phone pinged to the same location, but only for 17 minutes, making it seem like someone had definitely helped with the disposal of his body. JJ was found wrapped in plastic and bound with duct tape. Tylee's body had been dismembered and burned. The motive is thought to be that Lori thought her children were zombies, meaning that their spirits had left their bodies and were stuck in limbo until the death of the physical body. She deemed them as dark. Apparently, you can tell that someone's a zombie when they become difficult to deal with and a little bit headstrong. Lori and Chad Daybell are both incarcerated at this time and awaiting trial. The jury selection trial is scheduled to start March 22nd, 2021, and should end by April 2nd, 2021. I will definitely be doing update videos as new things are released, as we know more about the jury and when the actual trial will start. But for now, that's pretty much all I got. Thank you all for coming to hang out with me and for sticking it out until the end of the video. Hopefully I explained well enough to keep you all on track with me. I know I gave lots of information, lots of dates, lots of names, but that's kind of what this is all about. I really want Tylee and JJ's story to be told in its entirety. And I think in order for everyone to understand the circumstances, you really need to know how many people have mysteriously fallen victim to Lori Daybell's little crazy cult. I'd really love to hear your thoughts, and I'll see you all down in the comments. Peace and love.